Hi everyone, I'm Gina K from Stamp TV and Gina K Designs. I know it's only August, but today on Stamp TV I thought it would be fun to do a Christmas card project. We just got our Christmas Wishes stamp sets back in stock, so I thought it'd be fun to do a whimsical card using that set along with the contents of the Stamp TV kit, Flowers and Frames, for those of you who have that kit. Let me show you the tools and products you're going to need to do this card project. First, you're going to need some stamps, and I am using the frame stamp, the Merry Christmas stamp, and this cute little deer stamp from the Christmas Wishes stamp set. And this is by far one of my favorite Christmas sets that we have in our Gina K Designs collection. Then you're going to need some ink, and I'm using the Versamark stamp pad along with the Memento Tuxedo Black. You're also going to need some embossing powder, and I'm using the Gina K Designs Fine Detail White Powder. I'm also going to use the Embossing Magic Pad to get rid of oil and static on the surface of the card, so my embossing powder only sticks where I want it. Then I'm going to be using some of these large foam squares. I'm also going to be using this circle die, and this is from the Circle Stackers Layers dies. These are the silver ones, the layers. Then I've got some mono-adhesive tape, and I have some Spectrum Noir markers. Now you can use Copic markers or Bic markers or water-based markers, whatever you like to color with. The colors I'm using are TN1, DR5, EB2, and the colorless blender pen. For cardstock, I'm using cardstock from the Flowers and Frames Stamp TV kit. I'm using some of the cherry red, some of the white, and some of the fresh asparagus. And I'm also using a piece of the Floral Essentials pattern paper, and that pack comes in the kit, but you can also purchase it separately. And here I have a little white strip that I'm going to layer that on for my card project. You're also going to need some kind of scoring tool, and I'm using the Scor-buddy by Scor-pal. You can use any kind of scoring tool that you want for this project. Okay, so to begin, I'm going to start with this piece of cherry red cardstock, and I'm going to use the Embossing Magic Pad all over the surface, and I'm going to begin with the greeting down at the bottom. I'm going to take this in two separate parts. I want to do the greeting first and emboss it, and then do the frame next and emboss it. So let me start with the greeting and some Versamark. The reason why I like to do the greeting first is because it's smaller and it won't curl the paper as much, and it kind of gets it out of the way. You know it's straight. So excuse my head if it gets in the way here, but there we go. Okay. So now I'm just going to use this little extra piece of paper I have here, and I'm going to use the white detail powder and emboss that Christmas greeting. Make sure there's none anywhere I don't want it. I love our embossing powder. It is so nice and bright, and it just gets so nice and smooth, even with these detailed, fine images and greetings. You don't lose any of the detail. So there is the Christmas greeting. Okay. Now, my next image I'm going to do is the frame. So I want to ink that up with some Versamark. I love this frame. Quite possibly one of my favorite frames in any of our stamp sets. It's so delicate and so pretty. It can be used for so many card projects, and it doesn't have anything to do with winter. It's just really pretty. So if you are looking for a very delicate frame to use year-round, this one will do it. All right, I'm going to put that right here. And then I'm going to put some embossing powder onto that frame. Just blow away that excess. And then if you get any in places that you don't want it, you can always use a tiny little paintbrush just to dust the excess away. That makes it very easy. So now that is, it's got the powder on it. Let me go ahead and emboss that. Get this out of the way. Okay. Now when you're working with images that you want to cut out the center of an image and you want it to be very, very straight, really perfect, one thing that's really good to have on hand is a little bit of washi tape. So I have some washi tape here, which I may not have introduced when I was telling you the supply list. Let me show you how I'm going to use that. Grab my Cuttlebug here, and I'll do my A plate and my C plate. And then what you're going to do is you're going to line up the die, make sure it's exactly where you want it. But part of the problem with this is when you're working with an embossed image, sometimes the cardstock is a little bit curled, and that can make it a little bit difficult to keep the die in the right place. So what you want to do is use a very, very low tack tape, like washi tape, to hold the die in place. This will not ruin your card at all, and it will allow you to cut with confidence that it's not going to shift when it goes through the machine. So there, I have that taped on there, and now I'm going to put the B plate on top and cut. And you can see that will just come right off. And see how it has that perfect little line going around in the cherry red. So you still see that cherry red in the stitched line. If you didn't use the washi tape, it could have shifted a little bit, maybe cut off some of the stitching, or maybe you wouldn't have as perfect of a line. So that is a little hint for you when working with dies. So now I'm going to grab that white piece of cardstock and just line this up of where it's going to come together. But I'm not going to tape it down with mono adhesive just yet. I'm just going to kind of tape it into place with that washi tape. I'm using the same pieces just because I don't want it to shift. And now I'm going to ink up this cute little deer stamp with some Memento Tuxedo black ink. And I want to stamp that right inside that circle. There we go. So now that's placed in the proper spot for my card. And now I can take that washi tape off. And I can put the frame aside for a minute. And now I can do a little bit of coloring on this deer. Now I'm going to grab those Spectrum Noir markers, and I want to start with the body. Let me get a tighter look there for you. I want to start with the body, and I'm going to use the EB2 marker, and I'm going to color the body of this little guy or girl. This is such an adorable little image. And I like that you can use these images all through the winter. It doesn't necessarily have to be Christmas. A deer is always appropriate for a winter card. This just happens to be very sweet for a Christmas card too. Okay, and now I'll color the face. And now I'm going to add some of this TN1. This is a little bit of a lighter marker, but it also will help the darker marker get a little bit darker in a certain area, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to color this part of the deer that color, just giving it that little base really seems to help. Okay, so now we're going to make that part of the deer's head even darker. We want it to be a hair darker than the body. So we're going to do more than one coat of marker over that. There we go. So that's a little bit darker, and that gives a little bit of contrast. These Spectrum Noir markers are so nice because you can do that. You can add a little bit more color, and it just gets deeper. And now I'm going to use, this is the DR5, very close to our cherry red cardstock and ink, and just color in that little scarf. So we have a splash of bright color there. That's such a cute little thing. Now I'm going to use the blender pen, and I'm going to put a few little dots on the deer, kind of give it some spots like it's a baby. And you'll start to see these come up when I give it the second coat. See the little spots coming up there? Isn't that cute? We'll do a couple here on his head too. I keep calling it a him. I don't know if it's a him or a her. It's pretty eyelashes, so it may be a her. Okay. So there's a few little spots on her head, and then I'll just put a couple up here. Just maybe 3. Then I'm also going to just do a little bit of that to the feet. So the feet are a little whiter than the rest of the fur. You see that coming up? So there's the little deer with the little spots. All right. Now my next step for this card, I'll put this aside. I want to work here on this a little bit. I have this strip that's going to go across the center, and this is going to go on top of it. And although that's not a Christmas pattern, it's a perfect match, and you can never go wrong with flowers. Flowers are appropriate and pretty all the time. So I'm going to put these two pieces together. Do that. Now I'm going to attach this right in between the frame and the greeting. So I will do that. And then I'm going to add a little bit of embossing to this. A little dry embossing. Okay, so there I have that little strip going across. Now, I want to use my Scor-buddy, and I'm going to put the white mark, the white edge, right up against the left-hand edge of the number 3. I don't know if you can see that. So the white is lined up with right on that point of that number 3. And I'm going to score that. And I know I'm scoring it the wrong way, but that's how I'm going to see what to do on the back. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to place that white edge up against one of the notches and score it. Now I'm going to flip that around, and you can see the score lines pretty well there. Can you see those? So you just have to line the score line up with one of the grooves and score it so that it sticks out the other way. And then do the same thing with the other one. And so that just gives a little bit of extra definition along that strip, It kind of makes the strip look a little bit fancier that way. So, okay. So now I'm going to assemble this card. What I'm going to do is, I probably should score this piece too. I've got this large card base here that's 11 inches long by 4 1/4, and I'm going to score that at 5 1/2 inches. Fold that and then just press it down to get a nice crisp edge there with no cracking. And now this panel is going to go on top of the white panel, but I'm going to apply that using some of these square foam dots. So I'm going to put one at each bottom corner, one at each top corner, and then one at the bottom right up against that first score line. So we've made a little recessed window out of that frame, but it's not a bulky card. It's still a pretty flat card because it doesn't have lots of stuff sticking up on the front of the card. So it should mail for the same price as regular mail, and there's not much of a risk of anything getting damaged while in the mailing process. Alright, so I'll line that up where I want it. There. There we go. So there is the card. Now, I want to add a little bit of glitter to that scarf, but first I'm going to adhere this entire panel onto my card base. And that'll help make the white really pop out when you see it against the fresh asparagus cardstock. I like this color combination for Christmas, fresh asparagus and cherry red. It's a little bit more warm than a bright red and a bright green. And then I'm going to just take this little Sakura StarDust pen and I'm going to glitter in all the little dots on the scarf that are already on the design. And if you want to add extra, you certainly can to make it more sparkly. And you might be able to see that shining there a little bit. That is a really fun little card to make. So there is my finished card project. I hope you've enjoyed today's Stamp TV video. Stop back to Stamp TV for more inspiration using stamp sets and products from GinaKDesigns.com.